Welcome back to Challenge the Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
All right, so we just finished up an exciting wild card round this week, and I got a friend here with me, a new guest of ours, my friend Zach. He's a Bengals fan. Thought we'd bring him on because Bengals are in the playoffs once again. So, Zach, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Zach, resident Bengals fan. We're winning the Super Bowl. That's it.
Confident man right there. Another friend of ours, Brock's actually a big Bills fan, so that'll be interesting how the group chat runs down with that. But we'll get into that later. But we'll kick us off with recapping some of our Super Wild Card Weekend games. Did you notice they called it the Super Wild Card Weekend? Why? What's the Super? Where did that come from all of a sudden?
Yeah, no, I think they called it that last year too. So I mean, it's just kind of something like the NFL is trying to like spice it up. Hey, this is the Super Wild Card Weekend, but it's it has a nice ring to it, right?
It has kind of a nice ring.
One of those games was played on a Monday though. It seems that's not in the weekend.
Yeah, right. That is true.
Which I don't like that. Like, I don't really like that, they're starting to put games on Mondays in the playoffs. It's always been Saturday, Sunday. And so, it makes sense, but it's like, really? Monday Night Football? It's kind of weird.
It is a little weird because you got to think like, hey, put it on a weekend. It's playoffs. Everyone is going to be watching this. Of course, I could see that being a part of the reason they do it also. So they don't have to have two games on at once. They need some way to space them out.
Also, money.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, the money.
NFL is all about the money.
Mm-hmm. That's everything. Life is all about the money. But first, we'll start with the AFC. Obviously, Chiefs didn't play anybody. They had a bye week. First game I have here, Chargers versus Jaguars. Holy shit, that was exciting. Jags made a 31-point comeback to win the game 31-30. Did both of you guys watch this game?
I watched the first half, and then, which was honestly the worst half to watch, honestly.
It was.
Yeah, no, it was bad, man. Go ahead, Zach, sorry.
No, I was just saying they were running away with it, and then chokers choke.
Wasn't that the most Charger way to go out, too? The Chargers, been known for that in the playoffs. They always choke in the playoffs, or something weird happens to the Chargers in the playoffs every year. But, yeah, no, I watched the second half of this game. I watched, the first, quarter, and I had a long road trip, and I was like, you know what? I need to get some sleep. This is going to be a blowout. I think it was right after Trevor Lawrence's, third pick, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Why am I watching this right now? And then I have a buddy of mine. He's like, are you watching this game? And I'm like, no. And he's like, get out of bed, go and turn it on. And I was like, fine. So I went out, got up, turned it on. And at that point it was 27-14. And I was like, wow, okay, let's see if they can come back.
Shout out to our past guest, Philip, for letting Avery know. I personally didn't say anything because he told me he shut it off. He was going to bed. He needed to sleep. I was like, I ain't going to bother him with it. But Philip let him know, so we got back up and turned it on. But yeah, I watched the entire game somehow. I don't know why I didn't stop. But I think, was it early in the third quarter that they scored? Or was it late in the second half they got their first score, the Jaguars?
Yeah, wasn't it to Zay Jones too? Yeah, in the end zone.
Yeah. That's the one thing that kept me watching. I was ready to shut it off at half. I was going to be done with it, just do something else with my night. But they scored that one touchdown right before half, and somewhere inside of me was like, I'm going to leave this game on. I'm just going to keep watching. And holy crap, I'm glad I did because that was exhilarating. How does a quarterback go from throwing 4 interceptions, no touchdowns in between, just straight up 4 interceptions to 4 touchdowns? That's crazy.
Oh, man. If I'm playing Madden and I throw 4 interceptions to start the game, I'm quitting immediately.
Right?
I agree, man. But no, yeah, Trevor. Like, I hate it because like I like Trevor Lawrence, but like me and Max, we're always linked to Trevor Lawrence because Justin was drafted in the same draft class, Justin Fields. So we're always linked there, and I want Trevor to do well, but I don't want him to like do better than Justin Fields.
And
So,
I still think there's an argument to be made that, like, okay, so when you look at the overall stats from the game, it's 4-4, like 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Like, that's not any better than Fields. Yeah, he made an awesome comeback win, but the man threw 4 interceptions still. I mean, Fields wasn't that bad.
yeah, no kidding. That was a Jameis Winston stat line, man. That just to a T.
Because I also don't want him to do so bad that, like if the game would have ended without that win, like if it would have been 0 touchdowns, 4 to 5 interceptions, is that like at that point I'm just feeling bad for him. Like I'd like somewhere in my soul I'm like I feel so bad for this man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an incredible game. Wasn't it like the third most like comeback win in playoff history or something like that? Yeah.
It's up there. It's up there with even just this season Vikings.
Yeah.
Like Vikings I think have that record, don't they? That officially broke the record that game.
Mhm.
And so yeah, this game is right up there with it. But next game, Dolphins Bills. Bills pulled it out 34-31. Was not at all what I expected. The Dolphins did not have Tua. I can't even remember Thompson. That's the quarterback they played with, right?
Yeah.
This game was way closer than I ever could have imagined. It actually came down kind of to the last minute, and it had me sweating a little bit. I kind of like the Bills a little. Sorry, Zach, but I kind of like the Bills a little bit. I think they're a good team. I've mentioned that before, but the Dolphins were hanging in there, and honestly, it has me questioning the Bills' postseason run now. What do you guys think?
The Dolphins are scrappy. I feel like they went out there with they kind of felt like everybody was giving them no chance to win. And when you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain kind of thing. But yeah, defensively, they played really well without over-committing to running lanes. And I think that gave Josh Allen a couple of problems there.
Yeah. And so right now, I think the Bills are starting to flirt with the fraud alert. They're starting to flirt with that fraud title because at this point, the Bills have not looked that great this year. And Josh Allen, like I love Josh Allen, but he's kind of regressed ever since Brian Dable left as his OC to New York. And so like right now, I'm like, okay, let the Dolphins hang around. If you let a good team like Cincinnati hang around, they're pulling this off. And they're pulling this off by a large margin.
Yeah,
so
they started pretty hot. Like they started off pretty well. But yeah, I've noted the past 2-3 games I've watched at least, it seems like they're kind of just squeaking by. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't seem like a long-term successful way to, get yourself to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. And, we've all seen it. We witnessed a fraud in Wild Card Weekend. There's always going to be a fraud that pops up at some point in the postseason. And it's scary because the Bills, they were a lot of people's favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. So it'll be intriguing to see.
Early in the season, they were my favorites. Personally, I was picking them. But, I mean, yeah, I'm not so sure anymore. But getting into our next game, we got the Bengals versus the Ravens. Another situation where starting quarterback was out. It was a backup kind of guy. And the Ravens held in decently, not as much as the Dolphins did to the Bills, but the Ravens hung in there a little bit. Bengals did pull off the win though, 24-17. What'd you guys think of this game?
Oh man, it was gut wrenching. I was upset through a good chunk of the game there. Tyler Huntley, he's a good quarterback, but he's kind of like great value Lamar Jackson. So he can do a lot of the same things, and the Bengals kind of play a bend, don't break kind of defense. And Yeah, that Sam Hubbard play, he was beating feet trying to get to that end zone.
I was going to ask, if they score that touchdown on that play, are we looking at the Ravens moving on? Because it was real close. It would have tied the game up. And that play, that Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson, they're incredible. You guys got an incredible young defense. And just like a mad props for the Cincinnati Bengals where they were 2 years ago. And a lot of that falls on Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. But, man, that was also another upset. I know you mentioned you were kind of freaking out, but like, would you have been pretty heartbroken at that?
A little bit, mostly just because it comes to a in-division kind of rival there.
Yeah.
Ravens fans were talking trash on Twitter all week leading up to it. Yeah, those are tough games though. So
for sure,
I was impressed with it. I thought the Bengals definitely, I mean, could have looked a little better. Kind of like you were saying, Zach, you're a little frustrated with some of the performance stuff there. But they do truly have that kind of bend, don't break. And so sometimes it's one of those arguments where who's the better team? The team that puts up 1 million points and wins almost every game, but they lose those couple, or the team that wins every game, but barely wins every game. You know, who's truly better at the end of the day? The team with the more points for scored, or the team that just barely gets that job done? And when you're thinking about straight up wins and losses, it's the teams that barely get the job done, because no matter who they're facing, bad team, good team, whatever, they know exactly what they need to do, and they seem to go in there and do it.
Yeah.
Grit that comes with that. And I think Joe Burrow kind of brings that. They got that underdog mentality, even though they aren't underdogs anymore. So, yeah.
You got a full team of grit. Like Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, like one of the most underrated running backs in the league. I think Joe Mixon's incredible. He had 5 touchdowns that he got in one game, and he got no talk. Nobody talked about it. Yeah. Trey Hendrickson, Von Bell on the defense side, man, like the Bengals, they're built. And I think they got a good shot to take it all the way.
Oh, yeah. It's that Eli Apple effect there.
That's why I didn't mention him.
I love Eli. He's the villain this team needs.
Oh man, hey, you need one off player on every team. Mm-hmm. So there you go. There's Eli.
All right. Well, getting into the NFC side of things, Eagles were our first seed, so they had a bye. First game I watched, Seahawks versus the 49ers. Started out kind of close. Ended up being a little bit more of a beating. Niners won it 41-23. Brock Purdy looks fantastic, and I absolutely love it. I know he's not an Iowa quarterback, or he's not from Iowa like Max Duggan or anything like that, but I support Iowa State just enough to say, hey, you know what? Brock Purdy, holy shit.
Yeah, no, Brock looked incredible, man. The first half, I got really nervous because he was missing a lot of easy reads, and it's like, okay, he's starting to look like a 7th-round pick. I think I even messaged you, and I was like, Brock's not looking the greatest. He was
nervous. He was like, you got to think, this is his very first playoff game. He didn't even play all season. It's not like he was a drafted quarterback that came in and started playing. Like, he's only played a couple of games, and now he has this huge pressure of it is the playoffs, and you're trying to move up. You know the rest of the team can easily do it. The 49ers have every piece and guy that they need to go to the Super Bowl. Quarterback is the only questionable spot, and you could tell he was a little shaky coming out, but I think like all great he's going to be a really great quarterback, and the reason I can say that is because even with those nerves and that shakiness, he calmed down. He collected himself, he brought himself together, and he got the job done very well, might I add.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, it's just incredible that they went 17-16 into half, and they outscored the Seattle Seahawks 24-6 in the 3rd and 4th quarter. That's a lot of points. That's just turned into a blowout. And a lot mad props to Brock for turning it around. But that, like you mentioned, that team's incredible. Christian McCaffrey was firing on all cylinders. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. It was just incredible. George Kittle even had a down day, but he still performed up to standards. And that defense is just terrifying to face.
Yeah, that's the big key. Defense is what gets you playoff run. Everybody can put up points in the playoffs. Look at every playoff team. They all are teams that are notorious for just putting up points. It's the defense where you really got to look and say, which one of these defenses forces their will on the opposing offense?
Defense wins championships for a reason.
Yeah, and I think San Francisco has the best defense in the playoffs right now. Like, out of every
100%.
team, 100%. So it's going to be exciting. They got a good matchup coming up, so we'll see.
Yeah. Next game, Avery and I's favorite here. We got the number 6 Giants versus the number 3 Vikings. Giants pulled it off 31-24. How about that? We've been saying it. Vikings, frauds. I'm sorry, Nick. I'm sorry, Andy. But I think you guys both kind of knew it was coming. Maybe not this early, but Giants looked good. I think this is one of the first Giants games I've watched, and I did not realize Daniel Jones was, such a runner. He was picking up first downs with his legs like crazy, and I was not expecting that whatsoever. The Giants just looked great. They blew my mind. I'm not going to lie. They looked awesome.
Yeah, I've been saying this for weeks now that the Vikings are frauds, probably half the season. But, yeah, man, and I knew that when they got the Giants in the playoffs, I knew that Brian Dable would have those boys ready to play. Like, I think Brian Dable is your coach of the year. Like, he has to be the coach of the year. He's, like, just from the work that he's done with Daniel Jones, as you mentioned. Daniel Jones, coming into this year, was labeled a bust. They were going to give him one more year in New York to, see if he could do it. Well, with the help of Brian Dable, he's starting to look more like Josh Allen than Daniel Jones. So I really liked this game, and I was pretty happy with the Giants. Proud of them. Sorry, Andy. Sorry, Nick. But I'm not sorry because I've grown a more hatred to Minnesota more and more lately. But, fuck the Vikings.
Zach, Did you watch this game at all?
I did. I watched a little bit of it. Dude, Saquon is running like he's got a chip on his shoulder. He is tired of people counting him out, and he outran their entire team on that touchdown run that he had. It was insane.
Yeah, I think Saquon's one of those backs that, like, he's great. He came into the league supposed to do just absolutely great things. He was supposed to be one of those backs that was going to be talked about for years and years. And I feel like after his first year or so, just the talk of him has kind of dropped off. He's not still in talks all the time for, like, hey, who are some of the great backs right now? He's a little bit forgotten about. So I could definitely see where he gets that chip from. Like, hey, don't forget about my name. I may be on a team that hasn't done the greatest in the past, but we're building, and I'm here, and I'm great.
Oh, yeah. Well, and especially in a league that's so hard on running backs to overcome the injuries that he's had and just still look spry.
Yeah, there's some pop when he runs, and it's just crazy because these Giants, like, I don't think anybody thought they would turn it around this quick. They went 5-12, and this is pretty much the same team they had last year. And just to see them where they're at now and win a playoff game against the 12-5 Vikings, it's just incredible to me. Like, Vikings, everybody kind of saw this coming, but they didn't. There was a lot of truthers out there on the Vikings. And mad props to Kirk Cousins. He doesn't get a lot of shout out, but he didn't look bad at all. He had a good game. And people are calling for his job now but it wasn't him that lost that game. No. It definitely wasn't Kirk.
That's almost the same situation the Bears go through anytime their quarterback doesn't have just an absolute balls to the wall year. Like, they start calling it. It's one of those things where it's just, you've been a team that's been out of the playoffs, hasn't been very successful in a long time, and you start getting impatient. It's exactly what we were talking about an episode or two ago of some Bears fans are calling for Justin Fields. They're just too impatient. Like you said, Kirk looks fine. He looked great and everything. Credit to coach. That's all coaching right there. Talking about the Giants and how they basically have the same roster and now they're in the playoffs and with like that is all coaching right there. That really shows you how good of a coach the Giants head coach is he is bringing them up and developing them. But to go back talking about Saquon a little bit and running backs in the league, I think this is a perfect time to talk about it. We don't have a Bear Central segment today, but I've seen some rumors that the Bears are looking at a running back for their first round pick. And I don't get it. I don't think a running back is really what we should be focusing on, right? We have David Montgomery, we have Khalil Herbert, and we have Justin Fields, who, if you want to just speak run game in general, is probably our second best running back. So why are we looking at a running back for our first round pick? We need receivers. We need a line. We need defense to rebuild from losing Roquan. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, no, I saw that article too, but I've also, and I think it's just a smoke screen. There's a lot of smoke screens out here right now, like Justin Fields getting traded, and drafting Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson, and David Montgomery. I think the Bears are going to let him walk, but I saw another article, and I thought you were going to bring up Saquon. I've seen a lot of Saquon Barkley related to the Chicago Bears.
Really?
And he's a free agent this year. And if Chicago could get Saquon Barkley, that'd be incredible. I would be so pumped because that would help us a lot. That would help a young Justin Fields because Saquon's one of those all-purpose running backs that can do it all.
Yeah. And
that would be incredible for us.
You guys are running for 200-plus yards a game if you guys get Saquon on there.
Borderline, that's almost what we did this year with David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert and Justin Fields. So, hey, I tell people this as a joke all the time. The Bears just need to we just need to start running the Army offense in the NFL. We just need a triple option.
And so gross.
all day. Justin Fields, get Saquon, keep David Montgomery, alternate running backs. Who can stop it, right?
I mean, triple option is almost one of those kind of bend, don't break mentalities. We played a triple option team this year, and I know the week that we were prepping for it was very, very different. The defense was doing a lot of stuff, just very different from any other week. And during the game, it is one of those things where it's just immensely frustrating because, you get 3 yards a play and you have a first down. So they just sit there and here's a few yards, here's a few yards, here's a few yards. The one way you win against a triple option team is you catch them in a fumble. You catch them making a mistake. You got to get the ball. You got to cause turnovers. And so I'm not saying we should by any means go to the triple option look, but I mean, to me, it seems like we're not a great team. So let's, cover the little things and just little by little, push our way down the field and hope at the end of it that we come out on top of things.
For sure. I agree.
But anyways, to get into our last game here that happens, we have the Cowboys versus the Buccaneers. Cowboys won it 31-14. They looked good. They looked really good. And, I mean, Buccaneers also looked like complete trash, so maybe there's a little bit of, should the Buccaneers been here in the first place? If the Cowboys are facing somebody else, would they have looked as great? But I don't know. I think the Cowboys could go decent ways. They could be playing in the NFC Championship if they play like they did in this game.
I only have 2 takeaways from this game. They need to cut Brett Maher, their kicker. 4 PATs.
Holy crap.
4 PATs is just insane. They're going to run into a Cody Parkey situation, and we know all about that. You don't have a good kicker in the playoffs, you lose.
That raises a good question. I was thinking about this during the game. What's more embarrassing, or what's worse? He missed 4 kicks. Cody Parkey was hitting the goalpost every single time. What do you want? We have the double doink because of the goalpost. But would we rather him have just straight up missed? Would that have been better for us?
I think so, because then it wouldn't have been embarrassing that like it almost went in. You relive that and you're like, oh, did it go in? Did it not? And then it didn't. So, and that's just
wet thinking about that game.
Yeah. It's immortalized now. That's all it did. Like, kickers, there's been games like this before where kickers are off and they miss a bunch of kicks, but ours is immortalized now because he just hit the freaking goalpost every time.
And I've noticed, like, in almost every broadcast I watch, they bring up the double doink.
Exactly.
Like, this brings me back to the Chargers-Jaguars game. Neither of those teams have any relation to the Chicago Bears. And besides Doug Peterson, he was the coach of the Eagles, and they brought up the double doink when like they were lining up to kick the game-winning field goal. And I'm just like, really? Why do you got to bring up our old tragedies? Double doink.
Getting back to the Cowboys and Bucks, though. Sorry for our little rant. But you watched this game, Zach. What'd you think of it?
I did, and it's time to send Tom Brady off to his grave. He's done. I think so. Well, also the Bucks, I don't think had any purpose or had any right to even be in the playoffs. They made it at 8-9. They were a bad team with lots of holes in them. Yeah, and it sucks that they got to host that game too. That's gross.
Yeah, that's the pure. Like, hey, we won a really shitty division, so we get a host and we get to go get our asses kicked by a fifth seed team. And yeah, they shouldn't have been there in the first place. I'm annoyed that they were there because for Tom Brady's sake, he did make the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. Should he have? No, he needs to be done. But I think if they wouldn't have gone at all, he definitely would be out. The fact that he technically made it, I'm not sure what his thoughts are.
I think he's coming back. I don't think he's coming to Tampa, but I think he'll be back in the NFL on some team. I've seen him linked to Las Vegas, being the Raiders' new QB, Josh McDaniel, old OC. I could see that. I've even seen Bill Belichick wanting Tom back. And who knows, man, but I think Tom, what else does he have at home? Nothing. Not anymore. So yeah. I could see him coming back.
Yeah. He was given two of the most perfect ways for him to go out on top the last few seasons, and he still came back. So I would love to see him on the Raiders. That would be – they'd win like 5 games.
He definitely wouldn't go back to New England, I would say, because he moved away from that cold. He's living his life down in Florida. You ain't going back north. You ain't dealing with that crap. Boy.
Yeah. It would really be funny to see him on the Raiders. The Raiders would be like the preseason like champions. Mm-hmm. Everybody would crown the Raiders like they did with the Broncos this year and Russell Wilson going to Denver. Imagine that division though, the AFC West, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, and Justin Herbert. That'd be so weird.
There's 2 quarterbacks in the AFC.
Yeah, so weird.
Oh, but yeah, I guess I don't have much more to say about the Cowboys-Bucks game. Not a great game. Fun to watch because I don't care for Tom all that much. But we'll get into it. Is the divisional round now. So we got 4 games coming up. We're narrowing things down. We only got 8 teams left, 4 games. I'm excited. This is the time I'm getting really excited. Super Bowl's right around the corner. I'm ready to go. But first, we got Chiefs versus Jaguars. Now, big thing with this game, it's being played on a Saturday. And to this point, from high school up until right now, Trevor Lawrence has never lost on a Saturday. So, thoughts?
Jags by 1 million.
37-0, by the way. That's incredible by Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. 37-0. I'm taking the Jaguars, man. I hate to say this. This is going to sound crazy, but I'm rolling with Doug Peterson, and I'm rolling with the biggest upset of the weekend and the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is incredible. I just think the Jags are running with so much momentum at this point moving forward. And, like, I think the Chiefs do everything right, but there could be that one-off game that knocks them out of the playoffs. It's the playoffs. They have that every year, that one game that nobody expects. And I could see that. So
the Chiefs are one of those teams that, like, even when they are really good and, like, they're great, not losing anything, you'll watch them lose some of the most random games. Yep. I remember, I think 2 years ago, they were undefeated. They were like 11-0 or something, I think, at the time, undefeated, playing the Raiders. And I was like, oh, yeah, Chiefs have got this. Chiefs got this easily. They lost. Yeah, I was like, guys, what's going on? How do you lose? They had Tyreek still at the time. They had Tyreek, Kelsey, Mahomes. I was like, how do you lose a game? So they do find ways. I just looked up the odds, by the way, so I could get them on here. Chiefs are favored by 8.5. Are you taking Jags straight up, or do you want them covering?
No, I'm gonna be just like the Giants Vikings. This is Duval, Jacksonville Jaguars, money line. Putting my money where my mouth is.
Zach, what do you think?
I think the Chiefs are gonna win. I think the Jags are doing a lot of stuff right, but I don't know. The Chiefs are very good at football. I am holding out hope that the Jags do beat them because I'm hoping for a big cat AFC championship game, Bengals-Jaguars. But no, I think the Chiefs are too good. And the Jaguars, while they are coming into things, they've got a lot of momentum behind them. They're a young team without a lot of postseason success. The Chiefs know what they have to do to get there. And even if they start off a little bit slow, because I don't think they've played a game in the last 3-4 weeks that has really mattered. I think they'll be a little bit rusty, but I'm going with the Chiefs.
I think I gotta agree there. The Chiefs are just too good at football. They're the number one seed for a reason. They've been putting it together. They've been doing really well, and like you said, the Jaguars are starting to come into things. They're starting to take their stride a little bit, but I don't think they are filling that stride quite the same way that the Bengals did last year. The Bengals came in, started feeling themselves, and made it Super Bowl bound. I don't think the Jags are moving quite at that rate. I think they're doing some good things. I think they were lucky to get here and even win an initial game in the playoffs. That at least shows that they deserved to be in the playoffs, even though they were, once again, kind of just the winners of a not too great conference. But I think the Chiefs win this. They're a very successful team. They're a very experienced team, and you know that Andy Reid is just, he knows what he's doing. He's going to carry them through.
Yeah. So the last two times the Jaguars have been in the playoffs, 2017 playoffs and 2007, they made it to the AFC Championship. Both times they beat the Bills in the wild card round 10-3 in 2017, and then beat the Steelers 45-42, and then they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship. Both times in the last 10 years, they've made it. So I got all hopes out for Duval.
What did we just say on the last episode? At some point, the other shoe has to drop. Streaks are made to be broke. 27-0 or 37-0 on Saturdays. The other shoe has to drop at some point. I'm sorry, Trevor Lawrence. I think your first L might be coming this Saturday.
What if it doesn't, though?
What if it doesn't?
What if it doesn't on Saturdays?
If it doesn't, you guarantee they're putting the AFC Championship on Sunday next week.
If it doesn't, if I were Trevor Lawrence, I'd be calling the NFL commissioner. I'd be doing everything in my power to say, hey, Saturday should be the day. Super Bowl, AFC, we should do it all on Saturday. Think about it. Guys have Sunday to recover. They're off work Friday. Saturday is the perfect day. I'd be arguing for that so hard.
Yeah, one thing I'm worried about too with this game, and then we can move on. But Trevor Lawrence, for some reason, Trevor Lawrence reminds me when he's in the NFL like Max Duggan, and the Jaguars remind me of TCU. And if they make it to the Super Bowl, it's going to be a blowout. But yeah, which I don't think they'll make it, but I think they'll go to the AFC Championship.
Getting into who else will be playing in the AFC Championship, because that is the game right after this, is it not? No. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have Bills versus Bengals. Little bit of a non-rematch, shall we say? Zach, what are your thoughts and feelings about this game coming up right now?
Oh, man, I'm excited. I was more excited for the regular season matchup because win or lose, that one didn't matter as much. But I'm excited for sure. It's just always a good time to go up against a juggernaut and preseason champion. Just hopefully going to take them down a peg. Personally, I think this game should be at a neutral site as well. But, I mean, hey, I'm going with the Bengals all the way. I think they got it in them.
Avery?
Yeah, I think Bengals pull it off too. I like Joe Burrow. Unfortunately, like we mentioned before, the Bills, they kind of like not lived up to expectations. And I mean, they still have the Hamlin rah-rah momentum going for the Bills. But I think Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar and that defense, I think they're going to be ready to play. And I think they're excited, and I feel like they are a little disrespected that they did not put this at a neutral site field. It should have been. It really should have been.
It really should have been. Mm-hmm. But earlier, and by earlier, I mean a few weeks ago, I was calling for the Bills. I thought they were going to have it. But I do have to say, after watching the Bills in the wild card round versus watching the Bengals in the wild card round, the Bills let the Dolphins keep things way too close for me to comfortably say, oh, yeah, the Bills are still great. The Bills are still making it through. Bengals looked pretty good, and they beat a pretty good team. Like the Ravens, even though they had a backup quarterback as well, kind of like you said, Zach, it was basically just like another version of Lamar. So it's a backup, but pretty similar feel and style there. So I think the Bengals have a good shot. I'm going to take them to cover. The Bengals are plus 5.5. So they're 5.5 point underdogs, but win or lose, I definitely take them to cover that. If anything, they keep this game really close.
They're that big of an underdog in this game?
Yeah.
5.5?
Yeah, they're 5.5 point underdogs, which to us right now, after watching that wild card round, seems a bit not high. Low? What do you call it? It should be closer. It should be closer, especially because I don't want to talk too much about everything that happened in that first game, but at the time that DeMar did get hurt and everything, the Bengals were up 7-3, weren't they?
With the ball.
With the ball.
Driving. I agree 100%. I think this game seems like a 2.5, 3.5 point difference. And maybe it's just because it's in the beginning of the week still. I mean, Vegas still has a couple of days to, reflect that changes. I could see it getting bought down to probably 4.5, which still isn't great, but no, at 5.5, I definitely take Bengals plus 5.5. I really do, because that's easy. That's an easy bet because it's going to be closer than that. Zach, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, yeah, I think 5.5 is disrespectful. Mostly just because I think the Bengals have been getting underrated the entire season almost. I mean, they've won their last 9 games in a row, and Buffalo's won their last 8 in a row. So I think it'll really come down to occupying the rushing lanes for Josh Allen. Because, if you just stay in your lane and don't blitz anybody extra and create extra space for him, he's kind of got nowhere to go. They can be patient, survey the field a little bit. And I think the Bengals defensive coordinator did a great job the last 3 times we played the Chiefs even. because we're 3-0 against them, and I don't think the Bills are as good as them.
The Josh Allen is definitely one of those quarterbacks that teams are probably good or probably want to have a spy on him. They probably want to keep one of those linebackers in, spying on it. You don't just want to trust that line to fill those gaps. He's going to take off. He's going to find somewhere. He's going to get a little crease. You need to put a quarterback spy on that, man. But I was going to say, I think, doesn't it feel a little bit nice though, to some degree, being underrated? Because does it not make, like, your Super Bowl berth last year, does it not make it that much more just gratifying to be there when everyone was counting you out and you kind of have the flip of the card on them?
Oh, yeah. It is nice because I feel like we're surprised when teams play us. They've kind of adopted the mantra in the locker room of they've got to play us. So I think that's where their head is as a team. And I mean, one thing I've learned over the last 4 years is to not bet against Joe Burrow. That man is a dog in every sense of the word. And this week he's going to be an underdog. So the chip grows bigger.
I just think it's insane, man, that they made it to the Super Bowl last year and they're still disrespected in the playoffs. They're still disrespected all year long. Like, what have the Bengals got to do? I mean, win the Super Bowl. That's what they got to do. That's how you shut up the haters.
To be fair, though, it's hard to compare last season to this season because you can look at the Bengals, say, hey, they went to the Super Bowl and people are still disrespecting them. But also look at the Rams, the actual winners of that Super Bowl. Where are they right now? Sitting at home, out of the playoffs, never even had a chance. So, things can change on a dime. It's rapid, but just the fact that the Bengals are back in the playoffs and are looking real successful, they are a little underappreciated. I think they're moving on.
It's honestly quite a change of pace for me because I think before last year they hadn't won a playoff game in 30 years. So,
yeah,
I mean, every time they win one, I'm like, oh, this is what that feels like. That's nice.
Half the time Avery and I talk, I feel like I'm always bringing up the I'm just waiting for our Bengals season. I'm waiting for our Bengals season when we just, right to the Super Bowl right away.
Speaking of that, hey, the last two number one teams that had the number one draft pick, the Jaguars last year had the number one pick. They made it to the divisional round. The year before that was the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm just saying, there's a potential the Bears are in the playoffs next year.
The hard part's finding the quarterback, and I think
Justin
Fields is the guy. So
I sure hope so.
But getting into the NFC, let's talk about our matchups there. We got the number 1 Eagles against the number 6 Giants. Props to them for still being here. Do they make it past the Eagles? Allow me to say, the cover or the spread on this game, Eagles are favored by 7.5.
Which is a lot.
I want to say no. I like Brian Dable. Think he's going to have them ready to play. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a 24-21 game, 24-20 game. Are the Eagles healthy? I know Jalen was struggling. Are they full 100% healthy?
I would have to think by this point, he hasn't played in 2 weeks? Didn't play week 18. 3 weeks. Didn't play week 18. Wild card round by
4 weeks. Because he didn't play week 17 either.
Oh, really? Shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you would have to think he's got to be moderately healthy. It maybe not full like what he was, but he's got to be moderately recovered by now.
He wasn't on the injury report for the Eagles today. So
okay. So I think Eagles take this. I mean, Eagles, we talk about teams that have it all, and the Eagles are one of those teams that pretty much have it all. They have good secondary, great secondary. They have a good running back and great receivers, and Jalen Hurts has taken the league by storm, at least in the 3/4 of the season. And Giants still have a lot of work to do. They're playing with less. They're playing more with less, and I think they get shut down. they do get shut down today. So.
Shut
the Giants
down
are
or
such
shut
a young
out?
team, and the Eagles have so much veteran leadership on that team. Yeah, I just don't think they're ready for it. Even though I think the Eagles are frauds, but I just don't think the Giants have it in them.
Yeah, I see this almost exactly how I see the Chiefs and Jaguars game. Like you said, Avery, Giants have a little ways to go. They're making strides, but they still do have that little ways to go. The Eagles are not as stout as the Chiefs. Like you said, Zach, I think the Eagles are a little bit of frauds right now. I think the 49ers take the NFC pretty easily right now. Cowboys could give them a little bit of competition. I think they did. We'll get into that. This is the next game. But yeah, I don't know if the Eagles actually go to the Super Bowl. They do have quite a few good weapons. They have Miles Sanders, awesome running back. Jalen Hurts is what we're kind of hoping Justin Fields can be, getting it done in the air, getting it done with his legs, just have a whole arsenal there. But the Giants, as big of strides as they're making, I think they still just have a little bit more to improve on before they can upset the number one seed like this.
I agree. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I really do like the G-men. I really do like the Giants. So, as a fan, I'm cheering for the Giants in this game, but I just don't see them taking it.
When I'm watching this, I'm going to be watching this with pretty non-caring eyes. Whoever is up, whoever's doing great, it's not going to bother me at all. I'm not going to be rooting for either team over the other per se. I'm just going to be hoping for some good football and an exciting game. But speaking of that next game that I was getting a little bit into already, 49ers versus the Cowboys. 49ers are favored by 3.5 is all. What do you guys think of this game?
I have the Cowboys. I do think that the Niners are a very good team, but I think the team that's going to beat them is going to be the Cowboys. I think Micah Parsons he's unblockable at this point. If he can put some pressure on Brock Purdy at least a little bit, force him into some stupid mistakes that rookies make, I think the Cowboys, if Dak can avoid doing the same thing, I think the Cowboys win this one.
That will be the big key right there. With Brock Purdy, like I mentioned earlier, 49ers just have a stacked team right now. McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, they are stacked. But none of that really matters a ton if you don't have a good, solid, grounded quarterback playing in that arguably most important spot on the field. And the big thing, like you said, will be Micah Parsons. Can Micah Parsons create enough pressure and distress for Brock Purdy, who has not even played a full season? He's barely played half a season. He's been in 4 or 5 games now. He's going to get pressure like he's never gotten pressured. Micah Parsons is somehow just always right there. And I think Cowboys have a pretty solid secondary as well that's going to keep things a little locked up. Brock Purdy's going to have to get away from the pressure and make some real spot-on throws in tight coverage to win this game. That'll be the big question. This will really, really show, is Brock Purdy going to be a great quarterback? I mean, I think he'll be a great quarterback, but this will really, really show if he's quite there yet or how soon he will be there. Avery, what do you think?
Well, you guys are talking about Brock Purdy. I'm talking about the quarterback on the other side. It is all how Dak plays against the San Francisco's defense. Dak has been up and down all year. One week he looks like one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and the next he's like, is he better than Justin Fields? Or is he better than, some obscene quarterback in Davis Mills? But I just think Dak has to show up if the Dallas Cowboys wants to win this game. Dak has to show up. He has weapons. Dalton Schultz has been playing out of his mind lately. Tony Pollard had a good game. I think Dallas, if you're going off like a guy off or like pound for pound, Dallas is the closest team you could put up against San Francisco that they have the same amount of guys. And it all comes down, like you were saying, Brock Purdy in the quarterback position. I think it comes down to Dak. because great defenses. I think Cowboys take it. I love San Francisco. I'm going to watch this game with, kind of you said, not caring eyes, because, like, you know, if the 49ers win, I'll be happy because of Brock Purdy. Cowboys win, I'll be happy because my buddy Phil, they're going to the NFC Championship. And I like Micah, and I like Dak, and I like Tony, so, like, I think it would be really cool. But Dak has to show up, and he has to play like he did last week for them to even have a shot at winning this game.
Definitely. I got to go a little bit of the opposite. I like the 49ers. I think they look real hot. I think they're getting things done this season. And there's just too much. I will definitely be rooting for the 49ers a little bit. I do love Micah Parsons. I kind of like the new direction Cowboys offense is taking. I like Pollard. I like what Dak is doing. But Brock Purdy, Iowa State quarterback, George Kittle, Iowa tight end, Christian McCaffrey. His dad was a coach at UNC when I was there, so that not a huge connection, but just like, I don't know, something about the 49ers just gets me excited, and I like them. So I'm gonna be rooting for the Niners a little bit. That being said, I will not be upset, and I will be the first to congratulate Philip if the Cowboys do take this game.
For sure, yeah. No, I don't know, man. Like, I hope Brock does great. Like, I hope he comes out and he proves me wrong. But, like, it's just so hard. I go up and down with this game. I go so up and down. 1 minute I want the Cowboys win. Next minute I want the 49ers win. I'm confused. I don't know.
The real thing will be, like, you'll know when the game comes out. I've always said that. I've always been like, yep, I'm impartial right now. And then it'll be halfway through the second quarter, there will be a play, and I'll either be nodding my head like nice, or I'll be going, damn. And you know somewhere in the middle of the game where your heart lies. Whether you want to align your thoughts there or not, you know somewhere inside you're a little more excited on some plays than others. But Zach, what do you think? Do you have any kind of ways you're going right now, or what are your thoughts?
Personally, a guy I work with is a big Cowboys fan, so I'm rooting for him, even though he does not believe in the Cowboys this week. This game is so tricky because the arguments could be made for either team because they have the same strengths and weaknesses there. Nick Bosa is playing out of his mind right now. He's definitely the defensive player of the year. I just don't know if I trust Kyle Shanahan. Known for choking.
That is true. That, just like we were talking about with the Giants and how important the role of coaching is. And I know we've talked about it in previous weeks. I forget what two teams we were talking about or how long ago it was, but I remember talking on a previous episode about when you have two teams that are like this, that just match up on top of each other so well, it can really just come down to coaching. Well, because the coach is the one who's going to make those big decisions, going for force, time management on the clock, all that stuff.
Well, and you're speaking of coaching with Kyle Shanahan. I could come back at you with Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be between McCarthy and Shanahan. Like, it's going to be a coaching battle.
Yeah, and neither of them are the greatest coach. Mike McCarthy, like, the time management, he's terrible at. He is a terrible time management. And then Kyle Shanahan, he just makes stupid decisions at the wrong time. I don't.
Unlucky.
Yeah, very unlucky. So it's going to be interesting for that fact alone is the coaching. Like, which one is going to fuck up the most? That's who's going to lose the game. But I like how you said that you're a Cowboys fan, didn't believe in the Cowboys. Philip didn't want to come on this podcast tonight because he's not a big fan. He really doesn't think the Cowboys are going to pull this off either. But he also didn't think the Cowboys were going to beat the Bucks last week because of Tampa Tom and everything. So I think he's just not giving his team enough credit, which we've all been there. We've all had down moments where we don't think, our team's getting enough credit. But yeah,
I think Philip rides with my mentality a little bit, where I'm like, hey, if I don't expect anything out of the Bears, if I expect a loss every time, my heart is guarded from the worst.
Yep. But yeah, yeah, it's going to be, I think this game right here is probably going to be the best game of the divisional round. I think this is going to be the most evenly touted and most evenly teams. I think it's going to be a close ass game.
I think Bills Bengals will also be close in that ballpark. I mean, which it's a 2 seed and a 3 seed against a 2 seed and a 5 seed, but still it would. We're the 1-6 and the 1-4. Obviously, we're not expecting to be great games, but who knows? They could pop off. But yeah, I think if anything, it'll be that Niners game, probably the Bengals Bills game, strong second, and then I don't even know for the other two. I think they'll both be pretty handily won.
For sure.
Speaking of this, I want to shout out to everybody. Challenge the Call has a Twitter page now. We are officially on Twitter. We're in the talks of doing some live tweets during games, from either Avery or I. Just give a little update, little thoughts live during a game. So please go find us on Twitter. Challenge T Call Podcast. Just the letter T. I couldn't fit the whole word "the" in there, so I had to make the handle Challenge T Call. So go follow us on Twitter. We'll see how that goes. We're messing with it. It's a new thing. But moving on from football a little bit, I'll get into some of our college basketball update you guys on how Iowa is doing. Iowa did beat Maryland, which was super nice because both teams had 11 wins. Maryland's played one less game, so we had lost 6 already. They only lost 5. But we beat them 81-67. I actually had this game on at the same time that one of the playoff games was on. I don't remember which one. I know I sent it to Avery. I had the basketball game up on my laptop while the TV had football on. That's the way I like to be. I love having just dual screens, different games going on. You guys ever do that? You guys ever just kind of watch not even just 2 games, but 2 totally different sports? I had football over here and basketball over here.
Just completely
only sometimes. I do that when I'm at work, when I'm supposed to be working. I'll have something on my phone and something on my laptop, and I'll be rocking. But yeah.
Yeah, but so then Iowa was supposed to play Northwestern, but I guess that got postponed. I didn't realize that until I completely forgot to watch the game at all. I forget when it was even supposed to be on, but I was just looking for score updates, and I looked at the schedule, and it says postponed. So they did not play yet. I don't know if they will play. I would think they have to. It's a conference game, but next up is Ohio State. That's also happening on Saturday, so I'll probably be dual screening it again. Going to watch a little Iowa versus Ohio State. Ohio State's only 10-7 right now, basketball terms. Iowa's 12-6, so hopefully we can pull that one off. I really need Iowa to get back ranked. I need Iowa to really just come out with everything they got. I want to see a 100-point game out of them again. I miss the days where they were putting up 100 once in a while, and I want them to get ranked again because half the teams they've lost to at this point are back up in the rankings. So I think they deserve to be there. No matter what seed, I don't care if they're number 25, it's whatever. They completely demolished Iowa State, and Iowa State is up there. So I don't like seeing that.
Yeah, and Iowa State is number 12 currently. Horns down.
Yeah, they are high up there. And which, like we've talked about that whole TCU weird situation. If you look at just Iowa, Iowa State, and TCU, it's kind of like a 3-way loop around because TCU beat us. Of course, that was literally the day after we just played a game. It, got off of a flight, got home 3 a.m, went to bed, woke up the next day to play another game. But Iowa State beat TCU, and we beat Iowa State. So I think if we rematched TCU with an actual, couple days off, couple days to prepare and actually be ready for them, I think we do much better in that game. I think we win. I don't know. I think Iowa's just like, I'm a little biased with Iowa basketball. I think we're awesome, but not like my football takes whatsoever. My football takes, I do the thing Philip does. I'm a little guarded. I don't expect too much out of our game. But when I'm turning on an Iowa basketball game, I want to see some points on the board. I want to see us win because I think we can.
I didn't watch any of those games. I'm not going to lie. It's football season. I'll get into basketball here coming up. We only have 7 games of the NFL season. And then I got to find some sport to get on. So it'll be NBA and college. But I did watch a UNO game the other night. So
Yeah? How'd it go? Who'd they play?
We played North Dakota. We beat them 69-63. We're currently 7-12, unfortunately. But yeah, better record than last year. We only won 7 games all last year. So being 7-12 with our first year head coach, maybe he's moving things into the right direction. I ended up going to the Baxter Arena and watched that live. So that was a pretty cool game. Yeah. So go UNO, go Iowa. But yeah, I'll get into Iowa. Just let football season end.
Which is fair. Even I'm not fully engaged with it. Not the way I was last year. Last year I was following college basketball heavy. I watched like almost all of the Big Ten games. Anytime there's a Big Ten game on, I was watching it. This year I've just stuck with watching Iowa. But like you said, it is still football season. As football winds down and everything, I'll probably start picking back up a little bit more there. Zach, do you watch much college basketball?
Not a huge college basketball guy, except for around March, typically, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Max. Looking at this Iowa basketball schedule that they've had, you got some quality wins over Rutgers and Iowa State and Clemson. Yeah, I think it's coming pretty soon for Iowa basketball on there. At least a top 25 ranking. I don't know if they'll jump up past that to like top 10 or anything, but yeah, I agree with you.
Top 10, I think, might be a little fun. I don't know if we're
Feels like
that good, but I definitely think we deserve to be ranked. I just hope we do better in March Madness this year. March Madness has been a little bit of a disappointment the past couple of years. Everyone thought last year we were going to the Final Four or at least the Sweet 16 and just made it to round of 32, I think, is all. And so, yeah, I'm just hoping for a little bit longer stretch in March Madness tournament. That's all I ask for.
Also, I want to shout out Luka Garza, Iowa basketball. He's been on a tear for the Minnesota Timberwolves lately. Well, not really a tear, but he's really good rotation guy. He scored 17 points the other night. So that was pretty cool. Against my Bucks. But yeah, I was in Illinois, and my brother-in-law, he's a big basketball fan. So after one of the games, he turned on the Timberwolves and Bucks game, and Luka was out there balling out. So I was like, oh, Iowa.
I'll tell you what. I don't know if it's all due to Keegan Murray or anything, but so far the Kings are having a pretty decent season. They're 24-18. They're number 4 in the Western Conference, which is a big turnaround from them for where they were last year. So I know I obviously can't accredit that all to Keegan Murray, but I'm just saying the only big difference I know of on that team is our Iowa guy. So good for Keegan.
They started lighting the beam after wins as well. I think that they have a big like laser that they kind of shoot into the sky. So that would make me want to win games personally.
You got to win games if you're shooting a laser. That's basketball 101.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's all the time we have here today. Thank you, Zach, for being an awesome guest. We'll keep you guys updated. Check out our Twitter. Go follow us. We may or may not be tweeting for this divisional round. We'll kind of see how it goes. We'll toy around with the idea, but go find us on YouTube, like and subscribe, leave some comments. What do we want our guys to comment on this episode?
Okay, I got it. Which quarterback is this divisional matchup the biggest for their career?
Ooh, okay. So not necessarily the best quarterback, but which one's got like the most to prove, or which one's got the most to gain?
Because we got a lot here. We got Brock. We got Dak. We got Trevor. Josh hasn't won a big one yet, and neither has Joe. So this is going to be interesting, guys.
All right. So comment on our YouTube. Which quarterback has the most to prove right now? We want to hear from you guys. So without further ado, Avery, sign us off.
I guess I'm just going to say hooday because we got a Bengals fan here. And bear down.